Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are having a great Monday. Thank you all for joining us. As I know that this was kind of last minute, but I'm glad that you guys were all able to make it. Just a couple of things before we get started. First, we're going to give people a couple more minutes to get on because we do see that people are still trying to get on. And then two, if you are at a group home and or you have more than one child that is probably with you watching this webinar, if you can send a list of those youth that are participating to the IOP@macforkids.org email so that those youth can get participation or IOP credit for attending the webinar tonight. And like I said, we'll give one more minute and then we're going to go ahead and get started. And by the way, this is Dion Miles at MAC, the IOP training coordinator. And lastly, if you guys have any questions, we are going to put you guys on mute. Just type it in the chat box so the staff or parents who are maybe guiding this or, you know, they have hands over on the computer. If someone has a question, if the youth has a question, feel free to type it in the chat box as this is going to be kind of like a conversation. So we'll be willing to stop and, you know, answer any questions that we need to answer.
All right, so good afternoon, evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Stover. I am the Core Improvement Coordinator for, as well as Regional Impact Coordinator for Georgia Empowerment here at MAC, which is the Multi-Agency Alliance for Children. Some of you are familiar with Georgia Empowerment, but one of the things that we do is we try to make our trainings relevant to what's going on in the world, and we have a very high passion of making sure that our brothers and sisters in care, as well as the passionate adult supporters who take care of them, are receiving the best information and that they're safe. And unfortunately, this is a presentation that needs to happen. Throughout the presentation, there will be one or two videos. Some of them they do hit home. So if at any point in time you feel that you may need to leave, I mean you're in your own you're in the comfort of your own home, please do so. But I decided to go ahead and keep them in because we want you to really think about these things when you're out and about. And as you know, there have been countless of tragedies involving active shootings, stabbings. One just a few weeks ago where somebody just started shooting in traffic, and we want to make sure that you all, because we care about you all, to be prepared. At least have a little bit of forethought when you're walking into situations, whether it's you're at work or whether you're at the mall or school. Mind your business or doing the great things that you do. So please, as we go throughout this, if you have any questions, please type them in. I don't want to take it off mute because people will be popping in and out just because the nature of conference calls and webinars, people will drop and then it can get kind of distracting. So please type in. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start.
I've had to make statements like this too many times. We don't have all the facts, but we do know that, once again, innocent people were killed in part because someone who wanted to inflict harm had no trouble getting their hands on a gun. It may be hard to comprehend the twisted logic that led to this tragedy, but this much we do know. No fate justifies these murderous and craven acts. No just and loving God looks upon them with favor. Already, we've seen a national conversation commence, not only about the motivations behind these killings, but about everything from the merits of gun safety laws to the adequacy of our mental health system. And all across this land of ours, we have wept with you. Whatever measure of comfort we can provide, we will provide. There are going to be other days for politics. This, I think, is a day for prayer and reflection. As president, I have now grieved with 5 American communities ripped apart by mass violence. And these mass shootings occur against a backdrop of daily tragedies. There's an epidemic of gun violence terrorists apart communities across America. Any shooting is troubling. Obviously, this reopens the pain of what happened in Fort Hood 5 years ago. At some point, we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. And at some point, it's going to be important for the American people to come to grips with it. And for us to be able to shift how we think about the issue of gun violence collectively.
All right, so as you saw, there have been countless times where we just had to go back and recollect on what happened. And so this presentation is to give you a little bit of forethought. To let you know about some of the creators of this presentation, I have Ms. Dion. She's going to kind of introduce a few of the people.
So some of you all may know or may not know that within our own house here at the Multi-Agency Alliance for Children, we do have our own retired ex-military, one being Mr. Andre Blanchard, which is our, he is our program director over our network program, our clinical director here at MAC. And so if you reside in a group home, you've probably heard his name before. If you're a staff member that works at a group home or have ever worked at a group home, especially within one of our partner agencies, which is our 9 partner agencies throughout our continuum, you probably have heard his name before. But he is a retired ex-military. He has background in preparing for the worst, if you need to know. And so he assisted in putting together this training because, like we said earlier, we feel like this is something that, unfortunately, we have to talk about, but it's something that we need to know. Mr. Hakeem Hart is also retired ex-military, part of our staff here at MAC. And he actually is one of our intake coordinators here at MAC. So once again, maybe some of the youth may know who he is, may have seen him around, but most often probably the staff that may work within any of our 9 partner agencies have heard of him. But he also assists with putting this information together. And I believe he's also
he's also a martial arts instructor.
A martial arts instructor.
I've had the privilege of taking some of his classes because he's helped me train for different things, and he's I wouldn't want to meet him down a back alley, put it that way. And then there's me, Anthony Stover. I am current military Navy. I have background in a few different martial arts, as you can see in the pictures. One most current being Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. So there you have it. This presentation was developed by people who've gone through different situations. For me, going through some of my military training, being able to go through and having to search for active shooters or search for suspects as part of training. So, with that being said, what is an active shooter? An active shooter is an individual actively individual actively killing or trying to kill people in a confined space or populated area. What we want you to understand or think about is that we don't want you to get in your mind where if something happens that, oh no, this will not happen to me. They generally when it happens, they're going at random. There's no real pattern. They're just trying to get as many deaths as possible, and for the most part, they're gonna at the end of the day, they're gonna either try and take themselves out with you. So please keep in mind, if God forbid something were to happen or start to happen, please keep that in mind. Just try and follow the steps that we're gonna give you. So this presentation is designed to answer these. What can you do, or what you can do? Respond, prepare, and follow up. Call 911 when it is safe to do so. When you do that, please be sure that, like, if something was to happen, for instance, we're here in a building, or whether you're at 2 Peachtree or what have you, and it's a group of you all, and you're hiding out, and you're barricaded in, and you're safe. Not everyone needs to call 911. One person, 2 people, if you're together, need to call 911, because what will happen is if everyone starts to call 911, then the system may shut down. It can and it will. It's just not prepared to have everybody call all from the same area at one time. So just try and keep that in mind too. All right, so responding to an active shooter, you want to try evacuate the building. We want you to hide out, and we want you to take action. And so this next video, we'll kind of go through that. Now, mind you, this video is kind of hard to see for some people, but like I said, we kept it in because I'd rather you see it and be prepared than not see it and not be prepared.
Morning that began like any other turned tragic today when an employee opened fire on his supervisor and fellow coworkers.
Students, parents, teachers are asking why today, after a bloody rampage plunged this campus into tragedy.
Details are just coming in, but we're being told that a heavily armed gunman opened fire this evening at the mall food court behind me. There's no official word on any casualties yet, but one eyewitness reported seeing at least 6 people shot.
Active shooter, a gunman or gunmen killing or attempting to kill people in a confined, populated area.
You gotta get some sleep. You're looking like a vampire. You sleep. You ain't got no babies at home keeping you up. What the hell? Them again.
We've tried. I'm sorry. We're going to have to let you go.
Active shooter killings are a tragic, unpredictable reality, and one that's becoming more common.
Since 2006, the U.S. has averaged an active shooter event with 4 or more deaths every 2.9 months.
Even though the number of active shooter events has been increasing, your odds of being involved in one are still very slim. But just like fire drills and earthquake preparedness, making a plan in advance can make all the difference. If you do find yourself in the middle of a senseless attack, the why doesn't matter.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, nothing's happening.
What matters is surviving.
On average, 20 mass shootings take place in the U.S. every year.
Killers usually choose their victims at random. They look for easy targets. So the harder you are to see or to hit, the safer you are. When an attack starts, if you can find a way out of the location, do so.
Get out.
If you stay calm and think clearly, even in the middle of a life and death event, you improve your chances of making it out. Visualize your movements in advance.
Look at me. Get it down. Stay behind me.
Use cover, something that will stop a bullet, and concealment, something that at least keeps you out of sight.
Attention South Relay units, code 3 response needed regarding a 245 ESV 417. The town center shopping mall. Suspects wearing a face mask. Possible body.
Use any available means to get out, including emergency exits or windows. Most restaurants and retail locations will also have exits in the back, through kitchens or stock rooms. Even in the best cases, police are minutes, not seconds away. You must take action to protect yourself.
Okay, everybody stay calm. It's probably just a drill.
If you can help others without putting yourself in unnecessary danger, do so.
What's your name?
Lori.
It's going to be okay.
If you can't move safely to an exit, get to a room or a confined area you can lock down. Then secure the location.
Secure your location.
Oh my God.
There's somebody shooting.
Everybody stay calm. Remember how we train. Everybody get in this corner, away from the windows. Get the emergency bag from my desk. Help her.
Drywall won't stop a bullet, but there are steps to take to stay safe. Lock or barricade the doors. Turn off the lights. Move away from any windows and silence your cell phone.
The other door doesn't lock. Move desks or anything. Just block it.
A modern emergency bag can include a first aid kit, gloves, emergency plans for the building, and casualty cards to alert first responders to any wounded victims.
Most active shooter situations are over in 10 to 15 minutes.
Attention, Lakeville units, code 3 is needed at 245 GSB 417. It's going to be at Alexandria College. Multiple victims down.
Law enforcement's first responsibility when entering an active shooter situation is to stop the suspect, not to render aid to the victims. Medical teams will enter the scene as soon as the suspect is no longer a threat or is confirmed in another location. Silence any cell phones and remain quiet. Do not alert the shooter to your presence.
Sheriff's Department, is there anyone inside? Just hang tight. We'll be back to get you.
Defend yourself.
If you cannot escape the location and you can't shelter in place, you may have to defend yourself as a last resort. Almost anything can be turned into an improvised weapon. Look for something that can disrupt the shooter's ability to see, breathe, or control their weapon. When law enforcement arrives, they are going to be in a heightened state of readiness and awareness, looking for any aggressive movements. So keep your hands visible and follow any commands you are given.
A shooter. I just saw one shooter.
Especially in developing situations, engaging law enforcement, running toward them, reaching for them, even to thank them, could put people at risk.
Surviving an active shooter. For more information,
Thank you. Seriously.
visit activeshooter.lasd.org.
Wow. So as you can see, it can be a lot of things that's going through your head if something were to happen. One of the things that you should really do a self-evaluation on is what's your response during a crisis. And I know some of you may know the saying fight, flight, or freeze. So think about which one you are, and then try and prepare yourself for that. I know me. I have an order, so if I can get out of the situation, I will. But if I cannot, I'm a fighter. I don't freeze too often. So it's either one or the other. As the video stated, if you can get away as soon as possible. Always when you're walking into a building, I can't help it now. It's scoping out my area because I think of all the people that were involved in or that died tragically. They walked in and did not know what was going to happen. They thought it was going home that evening. What we want you to do is to be prepared. You see that exits. You know where people can come in. You know where they can. Where you can leave and things like that. So how do you know where to go? Can I help others? These are some great questions. Can you help others? Should you help others? If you can, yes. But if it's going to put you at too much of a risk, I would say just go ahead and leave. I know it's kind of harsh, but they're going for as many people as they can get. If there's somebody that's, for instance, on the freeze side of things, where they're just panicking and screaming and pulling at you, I would say get away from that person, because that person's going to lead them over to you. Because if you shine a light in a dark room, your eyes are going to focus to that. And if everything's silent and somebody hears you, they're going to travel your way.
I was going to say just one interjection. I know, I'm not sure if many of you all who are on here have been on a plane before, but if you're ever on a plane, when the flight attendants are giving you the emergency instructions, the first thing they say, especially to parents who have children on the plane with them, is put your air mask on first and then put it on for your child or whoever your companion is that may be with you. And they do that for the same reason. You are to help yourself first, and then if you are able to help others, you help others. And I kind of adhere to the game of hide and go seek. I think that's the best game that can kind of equip you for almost situations like this, when you have to find a confined area or something that can barricade you from whatever may be happening. Hide and go seek was a great game as a child, and I don't know if kids still play it nowadays, but Well, I don't know, but anyways, I think that really does prepare you because the one who can stay in their hiding place for the longest and doesn't get seeked out by the person who's hunting the people down, they're the ones who actually win the game, and I think that really kind of prepares you for situations like this.
Yes, great point. Yes, definitely make sure you're taking care of yourself. And what happened if you see law enforcement? So I can tell you just from being on the other side of going through the training as somebody who's supposed to go in and look for the suspect, the active shooter, and as well as looking for the hostage or what have you. When we have to go in and try and clear the building, like our senses are already heightened because we don't know where everything is. A lot of times, it was a brand new building, different rooms, a lot of different corners where people could pop out, and things like that. And so we had to go in and be mindful that we have to not only watch our back, but our shipmates or our other military comrades. And so when you're coming out, I would always say keep your hands up. Do not rush towards the police officers because they do not know if you're the shooter or not. If you have anything in your hand, just drop it. I mean that you could buy another phone, you can't get another you. Do not the video said that they're not there for you, quote unquote. So that when the police come into the building, they're not going to try to assist anybody that's been shot, anybody that's panicking and crying. Be prepared to have a gun put in your face because they're not going to shoot you unless you're like unless you have the gun and you're that active shooter.
Yeah.
Why that is important is because after the Columbine shooting, before that, one of the things that they did was whenever there was an active shooting, they would come and the police officers would come and they would set up shop outside to try and negotiate. And all the while they was outside negotiating, the person was in there still shooting people. And so after that, they changed their response to they changed their response to the first person who's on the scene. He goes in and he or she goes in and neutralize what happens there. And so what happened was that cut. By the time the police officer is on the scene, everything is over, like in the video said, within 10 minutes or less. And for those of you who are younger and may not know about Columbine, Columbine was a very tragic school shooting, and that left a lot of teens dead. Yeah, it was really sad. In Colorado. Feel free, if you have any questions, please type them in because I have everyone on mute, so you may not, if you're speaking, it would be pointless. All right, so this picture, it has a lot of, some very important information on it. When you're in a building, a lot of times, once you, if there's an emergency, whether there's a fire or whether there's anything like that, you always want to know where the stairwell is. If there's an active shooting, yes, this is live. If there is an active shooting, then if you're going to a stairwell, you want to know that just in case somebody's on the first floor and then they decide not to take the elevator and they want to go up, you know that in that case, you can always, if you hear them shooting in the stairwell, you can always get off of the stairwell at certain levels. So at the bottom, you see where it says LL, which stands for lower level, for 5, 9, 14, 18, and 22. Yeah, those are re-entry floors, and that's important because if you're some stairwells, I know that once you go in them, the door is locked behind you, and so you can't get out until you go all the way to the bottom. So always make sure that there's alternate exits just in case that person was was crazy enough to come and scope out the place and say, okay, if people start running and they go in the stairwell, it'll be like fish in a barrel.
And also, just know that these things are not only in like businesses, but they're also in schools. So just be mindful if you attend a school, high school, junior high school, and it has more than one floor. This is something that you would see if you ever entered into your stairwell. I know oftentimes when I was in high school, we had a stairwell, but it was often used by all the students. So I'm not sure how many students actually looked at this sign, but this sign is very important in terms of trying to exit a building or trying to leave when there's a situation happening on a particular floor.
All right. So, where should I hide? So, when you're looking for a place to hide, you want to make sure that it's somewhere where you just cannot be seen. So if there is a door, if there's a room where there's no windows or anything like that, get in there. If you can lock it, that's more points to you. If there is stuff in there like file cabinets and heavy objects that you could put to barricade yourself in, more points. Do you want to make it as difficult as possible for the person to get in? Because nine times out of 10, they're not gonna sit there and wrestle with the door when they could go somewhere else. It's almost like I don't know. Some of you may be interested in Kung Fu, but what they do, they say be like water. So water does not, it rushes around the rock or what have you. You want to make sure that door is locked and solid, and that nobody get in. What do you do while you hide? So the video said be quiet. If you have your phone and call 911, call 911. If you have to move, do not hang up your phone. The operators are highly skilled enough to know. Sometimes some people they can tell what type of gun it is just by hearing the shot. So leave your phone on. They can tell how many people. Sometimes they can tell. They gather a lot of information just by leaving your phone on, and so please make sure that if you're calling, again, that there's only one or two people calling, not everybody calling at the same time, in order so that you don't tie down the system. And the difference between cover and concealment: cover is you're taking cover, you're hiding behind that file cabinet, or you're hiding behind that vending machine, so there's something between you and the bullet. And concealment is like you're hiding, you're in the roof or the attic or wherever it is that you can fit and be quiet. And so fight, flight, or fight, flight, or freeze, and takes you to the fight. So when should you act? If all else fails, and you have no other options, if you can't run, you can't find a great place to hide, and the person's just coming your way, as you saw at the end of the last video. He only had a few options. You're gonna have to fight your way out. You have to incapacitate the shooter, whether that's throwing objects at them, tackling them, doing whatever it is. I can't necessarily tell you how to do that, like via webinar. I know here at MAC we're starting to do our own. A couple of us, we're doing the self-defense classes here at MAC. Maybe that should be something that your group homes or maybe your agencies provide, is a self-defense training, and it's something I would highly encourage.
Yeah, and basically you just want to kind of use whatever is around you. So, if it's a chair and you can pick it up and throw it, use that. Like you saw the man in the video use the fire extinguisher. That can be used to either spray or to hit with. Brooms, whatever you can use it. Like we said, it's what's in your environment at that time.
Yes. Right. So, and just again, if you're the one calling, the location of the active shooter, please tell them where you are. Don't depend on them to GPS it. Tell them the number of shooters, if more than one. If you think it's more than one, please let them know that. The physical description. If you happen to get a good look at the shooter, let them know. That way, when the police come, the more information you could give the operator, the more information they can relate to the officers that are coming on the scene. And that way, they're not coming in blind. They have a little bit of feelers of what to look for. And the number of potential victims. So if you've seen a few people get shot, or you know how many people are in your office that day. I know one of the things that we started doing here was we have a sign-in sheet. So at MEC, when we come in, we greet the person at the front desk and we sign in, and that way we have accountability for whoever's in the room, in the office. All right. When the help arrives, stay in your hiding place. Do not just pop out all of a sudden. That's not good.
Remember, they're there to clear the scene first. So
Yes.
Once they get the shooter, under control, then they're going to come help you that's hiding or you that's hurt.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, the paramedics, anybody else, no one else can come into the building until the officers who are clearing the scene says that it's okay. So the quicker that they're able to get everything, the officers are able to get everything under control, the quicker that the proper EMS or firefighters or whoever can come in and assist those that are injured. Keep your hands visible if you see the cops. No sudden movements. Is like we said, they're coming in blind and sometimes with little to no information given, and so they have to assess the situation quickly. They're still in their fight, flight, or freeze moment as well. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're at the end, and so I'm going to open it up so that I could hear any questions that you may have. As well as if there's a group of you, if you could type in your questions, that would be great.
But currently everyone is unmuted, so if someone wanted to speak live, they could.
Any questions?
So if I were to protect myself, like use something as like, a weapon and it accidentally, kills the shooter, would I get in trouble?
No.
That's at that point in time, it'll be self-defense.
All right.
So no.
Great question. Great question. Another question.
None?
Yeah. So we did record this, so just in case anyone, like I know some group homes dialed in, and you want to go over this with some of your young people, we highly encourage it, and we'll send out the link once we have everything ready. We'll send out the link for you to be able to go over this with your new youth or your staff. So do not hesitate to email us if you have any questions.
One thing I will add before we kind of close out is if you do reside in a group home or if you reside in a foster home, be vigilant and try to take the initiative to go ahead and talk through with that caregiver of yours. What is your exit plan if something was to happen? Just like they said in the video, we have fire drills, or we have tornado drills and things like that for when the worst happens, but we don't usually do it for like an active shooter. So make sure you're able to kind of locate all your exits. If you're in a foster home, this is something that I know growing up, they talked about in school all the time about having an emergency plan. Like if your house catches on fire, what are you supposed to do? So this would be the perfect time for you to kind of go through that emergency exit strategy with your caregiver or with your group home staff.
Yeah, and also one of the things that I forgot to mention was that in some of the active shooter cases that happened, the shooting was just the first part of it. Outside a few of them, they found explosive devices and different bombs for those that were escaping. And so we want you to be mindful of that as well. If something was to happen, that okay, I don't. My personal mantra is I'm not safe until I'm at home. So if I have to escape out of a building, I'm not safe until I get in my car and I'm all the way at home in my bed or have you. Because a few of the instances they did find bombs that just didn't go off. The one that happened in Florida most recently, he had stuff already made at home. And he just didn't bring it. So please be mindful of that as well.
This is why it's also very important when you say you're going to tell your caregiver you're going to go hang out with your friends or you're going to be wherever you say you're going to be. It's important for you to be there because, your caregiver would hate to get a call saying, from the police, hey, I have, Johnny Smith who unfortunately is deceased because he or she was where they weren't supposed to be. So that's another reason why it's super important to make sure that we're open and honest with our caregivers about where we are and where we're going to be at certain times. So just keep that in mind. Question?
No.
Well, if there's nothing else, please, caregivers, foster parents, do not forget to send a list of the youth who are with you going through this webinar. If you have additional youth that are going to go through this webinar, once they complete it, you can still send me that list of any additional youth that you kind of train or inform on this information, and I'll make sure to get a certificate out to them saying that they did participate and they did receive IOP credit towards this topic, okay? And you will send that at the IOP at MAAC, the number 4, kids.org. And I've typed it in the chat box too for those of you that need it.
All right. Well, thank you for logging in. We hope that you learned something new. And like we said, unfortunately, we do have to have this conversation. So we hope that it makes you a little bit more aware, more attentive to your surroundings.
Hopefully you won't ever have to do that.
Yes. Thank you, and we hope that you have a great evening.
Bye.
Peace.